Good morning, Ciara, and thank you, Minister, for coming into the House this morning to answer this question. And it was a question that I raised with you at the Children's Committee last week. So I think it's very important that we acknowledge the sacrifice the youth have made at this time. I know you have allocated monies towards youth services, but it still doesn't deal with the many youth out there that have suffered as a result of the COVID restrictions on their lives. And certainly it is not in contrast in what other areas that this government has allocated monies to. And if we take the students for interest, they were allocated €250, and all of the other stay and spend, the working man and working woman got the stay and spend vouchers of €250 as well. So I think it's a small token towards the youth, one that they can invest in, whether it be going to the gym or taking up music or investing in the arts or learning a new skill. But I'm a little bit disappointed that you've left the youth out with regard to supports at this time. So I'd like you to give me a little bit of confidence that you're going to do something for them.
Thank you very much, Senator, and thanks for raising this matter. And I would say we have absolutely not left young people out in our response to COVID. Young people have been absolutely central in the government's response and in my own department's response. And we're aware that COVID has disrupted all elements of life across the country, and it has a particular impact on the well-being of young people. Their educational progress has been interrupted, but as you said, their wider social life and their community life, and particularly, you know, for many early in their careers, all of this has been interrupted over the last number of months. And in order to have a full understanding of the impact, my department has commissioned research on the impact specifically on young people, and that research has demonstrated, and it aligns with research done internationally, that the lockdown has had impacts on people's health, their mental health, their well-being, and that impact has been particularly acute in marginalised groups. But I think it's also worth noting that while there's been an impact on young people have really rallied in response to COVID, and this was recognised, I think, by the acting CMO recently, and I think that was important to put that on record. But in particular, youth organisations around the country have been leading the community response to COVID, and I want to express my thanks towards them. And we should never underestimate the potential for young people in Ireland to show leadership at a time of crisis. My department funds a range of organisations in the youth sector, and we've continued funding them. So even during the lockdown, and I think that's important, even during the lockdown, the vast majority of youth organisations continued to stay open and continued to support the young people who were part of their cohort, and that has been particularly important in maintaining the mental well-being of young people, and that actually came up in the research that we undertook. Those young people who engaged with youth services during the lockdown had better outcomes than those who didn't. And I just want to recognise the people involved in the youth sector, but the national organisations who are supporting them as well. And I think in particular we supported the youth sector by a number of small grants, but grants that were spread across the country, both capital grants and current grants, to help them meet the cost of COVID. More recently, we've also provided a grant scheme to allow them upgrade their ICT technology, which is particularly important because many of these youth organisations have had to move online to actually facilitate their ongoing engagement with young people. So in the year 2020, we spent 61.79 million in current funding and 3 million on capital funding. But importantly, in the budget this year, following on from my own engagement with the youth sector, but particularly to recognise the great work the youth sector had done, we added an additional 5 million in current spending next year. So that's a very significant increase to their budget. It was actually more than the sector had been lobbying me for, but I wanted to recognise the huge work they do and the tens of thousands of young people across the country that they're supporting. Now again, I think that broad supports across the sector is the best way for the state to invest money. I know the Senator has put forward this idea of a voucher scheme. I think it's difficult to see how that will bring about broad supports, particularly because many of the accesses that she's speaking about, gyms, the arts, leisure centres, all are closed in level 5. So at the time when young people need the supports most, that particular scheme I don't feel would be delivering for them, whereas youth services are open in level 5. So that's why my department's view is we put the supports on those wider youth services, and we look forward to continuing to do so. So thanks to the Senator for raising this. I'm happy to hear maybe her comments on what I've said.
Thank you, Minister. And I'm not aware of any youth services that are open on level 5, certainly not in my area. I think this is a really good idea. I honestly believe that it is achievable. If the stay and spend is achievable, so too is investment in youth services or recreational voucher, or that can be used with providers. I'm a little bit disappointed to see that you may not have considered this as a good investment. I think it is. Investing in our youth is really, really important, and encouraging our youth to get involved and to keep their mind active and keep their mental health and well-being at its best is really, really important. I think if we let that slip, there's a number of years lost as regards their development in life. So I definitely believe that this voucher would have been a good idea. There was also a scheme that the Department of Transport ran for a number of years called the Kids Go Free. And this year, unfortunately, that didn't happen either because of COVID. Now, I did mention it to the Minister for Transport, Minister Ryan, and he sort of did give me an indication that he might consider it for the month of December. So maybe if you could have a chat with him, because I've already sent him an email on it, and that might be something that you might be able to do for the youth. It's the larger cities would get free transport for children from the age of, I think it starts at 12 to 18. So that might be something that you might consider supporting and getting Minister Éireann Ryan to support. But I think if you could look at this again, I don't know where you're going to find the money for it, but not everybody goes to a youth club. Not everybody plays football. Not everybody is involved in sports. And I think those youth that are marginalised and the youth that we really, really want to help may avail of this voucher. And I think it would, and something that you could possibly consider on a yearly basis, not just this year, but something going down the line. It may stop other antisocial behaviour manifesting later on in life. But thank you, Minister, for coming in.
Thank you, Senator. We got you back the time you denied yourself earlier. Minister to respond.
Thanks. Yes, look, Senator, I absolutely agree that investing in our youth is fundamentally important. And I think I've outlined how my department has done that and how we'll continue to do that. And look, I'm always open to looking at all avenues. I think it is important to say we changed the public health guidelines to ensure that youth services could open even in level 5. Now it's in small groups, but it is. And I was talking to a scout leader yesterday, and their cubs had met for the first time, even now in level 5. And again, that's because my department were looking at the situation and we're aware that it is really tough for young people, and we want to make things as easy as possible. And look, you're right, not everyone goes to youth groups, not everyone plays sport. I was not a sporty person at that age. Might shock you, but I wasn't. But I think we're trying to target those services that give the most widespread benefit, and there are tens of thousands of young people across the country using youth services, and we've demonstrated that those who are using them get better health outcomes. But look, we're happy to engage with you on ideas, and I'm always open to looking at new solutions. Thank you, Senator.